The trade war between the United States and Canada has taken a dramatic turn, focusing now on the icy expanse of Alaska. Canada has dropped a bombshell, announcing hefty tolls on American trucks traveling through British Columbia to Alaska. This vital artery, the Alaska Highway, is now a flashpoint in the escalating trade dispute. The Canadian government's move is a direct response to President Trump's decision to slap a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, including automobiles and agricultural products. These tariffs, implemented back in January of 2025, have sent shockwaves through the Canadian economy, prompting swift and targeted retaliation. The tolls on American trucks are expected to have a significant impact on Alaska, which relies heavily on this land route for essential goods. This move has the potential to disrupt the flow of over $3 billion worth of American products annually, particularly in the oil and seafood sectors, industries that are, honestly, vital to Alaska's economy. The trade war, which initially targeted Canada, has now boomeranged, striking right at the heart of an American state. Alaska, heavily reliant on trade with Canada, finds itself caught in the crossfire. The state's dependence on the smooth flow of goods through Canada is now a glaring vulnerability. The Trump administration's decision to impose tariffs on Canadian imports has backfired, igniting a trade war with a key ally. The tariffs, meant to protect American jobs, have instead jeopardized the livelihoods of Alaskans. This situation really underscores the interconnectedness of the global economy and the unintended consequences of protectionist policies. The 25% tariffs on Canadian goods have created a ripple effect, disrupting supply chains and increasing costs for businesses and consumers on both sides of the border. The situation in Alaska highlights the economic pain inflicted by the trade war, a stark reminder of the high stakes involved. Alaska, now facing economic strangulation, has launched its own counteroffensive. Alaskan politicians, led by Representative Dan Sullivan, have proposed a radical move, repealing the Passenger Vessel Services Act. This act, a cornerstone of maritime law, mandates that foreign-flagged ships carrying passengers between U.S. ports must also stop at a foreign port. Repealing the PVSA would be a direct shot at the Canadian tourism industry, particularly in British Columbia. Cruise ships, which are a major driver of tourism revenue, would no longer be obligated to stop at Canadian ports. The move could cripple the tourism sector in British Columbia, a province heavily reliant on the influx of cruise ship passengers. Alaska's retaliatory strike is a calculated escalation of the trade war, aimed at inflicting maximum economic pain on Canada. The move signals Alaska's determination to protect its interests, even if it means, well, further straining relations with its southern neighbor. The trade war's impact is being felt far beyond the halls of power, with businesses and communities bearing the brunt of the economic fallout. In Alaska, the fishing industry, a cornerstone of the state's economy, is bracing for a downturn. The tariffs and transportation disruptions threaten to disrupt the flow of Alaskan seafood to markets in the lower 48 states and beyond. The tourism industry, another vital sector for both Alaska and British Columbia, is also feeling the heat. The uncertainty surrounding the trade war and potential travel disruptions has led to a decline in bookings and tourism spending. The economic consequences are far-reaching, impacting businesses, workers, and communities that rely on the tourism dollar. The trade war's economic fallout serves as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global economy and the potential for collateral damage when trade relations sour. The situation underscores the need for a swift resolution to the dispute before further economic harm is inflicted. The trade war has exposed a sensitive geopolitical reality: Alaska's strategic importance to the United States. Situated at the crossroads of the Arctic, Alaska hosts crucial military bases, including Air Force bases and a submarine base. These installations play a vital role in U.S. national security, particularly in an era of renewed great power competition. Canada's decision to leverage its geographic proximity to Alaska, using transportation routes as a bargaining chip, has raised eyebrows in Washington. The move has highlighted the potential vulnerability of Alaska's supply lines and the strategic calculations involved in the trade dispute. The trade war, initially perceived as an economic dispute, has revealed a deeper geopolitical dimension. Alaska, once a remote outpost, has become a focal point in the escalating tensions between the United States and its northern neighbor. Canada is shifting its foreign policy. This is a direct response to changing global dynamics. The United States, once a steadfast ally, has become unpredictable. The Trump era in particular strained the relationship. Trade disputes arose. Canada seeks to reduce its reliance on the United States. Canada is forging new partnerships. It is strengthening existing ones. This approach aims to secure Canada's future. The country is focusing on its national interests. It is diversifying its economic and security ties. This is a significant departure from its traditional reliance on the United States. For decades, Canada's economy has been closely tied to the United States. The two countries share the world's longest undefended border. They are major trading partners. However, recent events have highlighted the vulnerabilities of this relationship. Canada is now actively pursuing diversification. It seeks new markets for its goods and services. It wants to reduce its economic reliance on the United States. This involves strengthening trade relationships with other countries. Canada is also looking beyond the United States for its security needs. It is increasing its defense spending. It is seeking closer ties with NATO allies in Europe. This includes exploring partnerships in defense technology and procurement. Europe presents a significant opportunity for Canada. The European Union is a major economic bloc. It shares Canada's values of democracy and free trade. The Canada-EU Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, known as CETA, came into force in 2017. It has already boosted trade between the two partners. Canada is seeking to further deepen these ties. Canada is also strengthening its security relationship with Europe. It is increasing its contributions to NATO missions. It is seeking closer cooperation on counterterrorism and cybersecurity. These efforts are strengthening the transatlantic alliance. Canada is blessed with abundant natural resources. These include vast hydropower potential. It also has significant wind and solar energy resources. Canada is committed to transitioning to a clean energy economy. The government has set ambitious targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It is investing heavily in renewable energy infrastructure. Canada is also positioning itself as a global leader in clean technologies. This shift to clean energy is not just about environmental responsibility, it is also an economic opportunity. It is creating jobs, it is attracting investment, it is reducing Canada's dependence on fossil fuels. Section 5. The U.S.-Canada Trade War, a catalyst for change. The Trump administration imposed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum in 2018. This sparked a trade war between the two countries. Canada retaliated with tariffs on U.S. goods. The trade war highlighted the risks of Canada's economic dependence on the U.S. It accelerated Canada's efforts to diversify its trade relationships. It also strained the political relationship between the two countries. While the trade war has since subsided, its impact is still felt. It served as a wake-up call for Canada. It underlined the need for a more independent foreign policy. Section 6. Weathering the storm: economic impacts and adjustments. The U.S.-Canada trade war had a significant impact on both economies. Certain sectors in Canada experienced job losses. The cost of some consumer goods increased. However, Canada's economy proved to be resilient. The government implemented measures to support affected businesses. It also sought to open up new markets for Canadian exports. The trade war also highlighted the interconnectedness of the two economies. U.S. businesses that relied on Canadian suppliers faced disruptions. Some U.S. consumers faced higher prices for goods. Section 7. Navigating global trade challenges. The global trade landscape is becoming increasingly complex. Protectionism is on the rise. The World Trade Organization, or WTO, is facing challenges. Canada is committed to free trade. It believes that trade is essential for economic growth. It is working with like-minded countries to reform the WTO. It is also seeking to negotiate new trade agreements. Canada is also aware of the need to address the concerns of those who have been left behind by globalization. It is investing in worker retraining programs. It is providing support for businesses to adapt to the changing global economy. Section 8. A long-term vision, sovereignty, and prosperity. Canada's foreign policy shift is not about turning its back on the U.S. It is about securing its own future in an uncertain world. It is about building a more sovereign and prosperous Canada. This involves making strategic choices about trade, security, and the environment. It involves working with partners who share Canada's values. It involves standing up for Canada's interests on the world stage. Canada's long-term vision is to be a strong, independent, and respected voice in the world. This is a vision that is shared by Canadians across the political spectrum. Section 9, Conclusion, A New Dawn for Canada. Canada is at a crossroads in its foreign policy. The old certainties are gone. The U.S. is no longer the reliable partner it once was. Canada is charting a new course. This new course is based on diversification, partnership, and a commitment to Canadian values. It is a course that recognizes the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. Only time will tell whether Canada's new foreign policy will be successful. However, one thing is clear: Canada is determined to forge its own path in the world.
The United States and Canada, once steadfast allies and trading partners, find themselves locked in a bitter trade war. This conflict, simmering for years, has recently escalated to encompass vital industries like technology and energy. The initial salvos involved tariffs on traditional goods, with the US targeting Canadian steel and aluminum. Canada retaliated with tariffs of its own, striking at American agricultural products and manufactured goods. However, the battleground has now shifted to the cutting edge of the global economy: electric vehicles and the intricate supply chains that support them. This trade war represents a significant departure from the historically close economic ties between the two North American neighbors. For decades, the US and Canada have enjoyed a mutually beneficial trading relationship, with goods flowing freely across the border. The automotive sector in particular has been deeply integrated, with parts and finished vehicles assembled in both countries. However, recent protectionist policies on both sides of the border have strained this once harmonious relationship. The current dispute threatens to unravel these deeply intertwined supply chains and inflict lasting damage on both economies. The current trade war has its roots in the Trump administration's imposition of tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum in 2018. These tariffs, justified on national security grounds, were met with immediate retaliation from Canada, which imposed tariffs on a range of US goods. The Biden administration has maintained many of these tariffs, arguing that they are necessary to protect American jobs and industries. However, critics argue that these tariffs have only served to raise prices for consumers and businesses alike. The trade war has escalated in recent months, with both sides exchanging new tariffs and imposing non-tariff barriers. This escalation has raised concerns about the future of the US-Canada trading relationship and the potential for a full-blown trade war. The stakes are high for both countries, as the trade war threatens to disrupt supply chains, increase costs for businesses and consumers, and damage economic growth. At the heart of this trade war lies Tesla, the electric vehicle pioneer, which has become a lightning rod for Canadian ire. Canada has singled out Tesla, slapping tariffs on its vehicles sold in the Canadian market. Furthermore, Canada has taken aim at Tesla's access to lucrative government subsidies designed to encourage the adoption of electric vehicles. These moves have sent shockwaves through the automotive industry, signaling Canada's willingness to inflict targeted pain on a company that has come to symbolize American technological dominance. Tesla's position in the Canadian market makes it a prime target for retaliation. The company has rapidly captured a significant share of the Canadian electric vehicle market, outselling established automakers and cultivating a devoted customer base. This success, however, has drawn the ire of Canadian policymakers, who see Tesla as a symbol of American economic might and a threat to the development of a domestic electric vehicle industry. By targeting Tesla, Canada aims to send a clear message. Protectionist measures will be employed to nurture homegrown industries, even if it means hindering the progress of a global leader in electric mobility. Beyond direct tariffs and subsidy restrictions, Canada has also floated the possibility of limiting exports of raw materials crucial for the production of electric vehicle batteries. These materials, including lithium, nickel, and cobalt, are found in abundance in Canada. They are essential components in the lithium-ion batteries that power electric vehicles. Restricting access to these critical resources would deal a significant blow to Tesla's supply chain and potentially disrupt its production capabilities. This targeted attack on Tesla highlights the broader tensions underlying the US-Canada trade war. It is not merely about protecting domestic industries from foreign competition, it's about national pride, technological sovereignty, and the future of mobility. Canada, like many countries, aspires to be a leader in the electric vehicle revolution. It views Tesla's dominance as a potential impediment to achieving this goal. Canada's threat to restrict exports of critical minerals represents a significant escalation in the trade war. These minerals are not just essential for Tesla, they are vital for the entire electric vehicle industry. By leveraging its position as a leading producer of these resources, Canada could disrupt the North American electric vehicle supply chain, sending tremors far beyond Tesla's factories. The global transition to electric mobility hinges on securing a reliable and sustainable supply of these critical minerals. Canada's vast reserves have positioned it as a key player in this emerging market. However, the trade war threatens to upend this delicate balance. If Canada follows through on its threat, it could trigger a scramble for alternative sources, potentially driving up prices and delaying the adoption of electric vehicles. The implications of Canada's rare earth gambit extend far beyond the automotive industry. These minerals are also essential components in a wide range of high-tech products, including smartphones, laptops, and renewable energy systems. A disruption in the supply of these materials would have far-reaching consequences for the global economy, potentially slowing innovation and hindering the transition to a more sustainable future. This situation underscores the interconnected nature of global supply chains. In the 21st century, the trade war between the US and Canada serves as a stark reminder that even seemingly localized disputes can have global ramifications. As countries around the world strive to secure their place in the emerging green economy, access to critical raw materials will become an increasingly important geopolitical lever. While Tesla has borne the brunt of Canada's retaliatory measures, traditional US automakers like Ford and General Motors are far from immune to the fallout of this trade war. The intricate web of cross-border supply chains in the automotive industry means that any disruption to the flow of goods between the US and Canada will have ripple effects throughout the sector. Both Ford and GM have invested heavily in electric vehicle production, aiming to challenge Tesla's dominance and capture a share of this rapidly growing market. However, the trade war threatens to undermine these efforts, potentially increasing costs, disrupting production, and delaying the rollout of new electric vehicle models. The trade war comes at a pivotal moment for the US auto industry, which is grappling with a confluence of challenges, including supply chain disruptions, rising inflation, and a global chip shortage. The added uncertainty of a trade war with a key trading partner only adds to the pressure on these companies as they navigate this complex landscape. Moreover, the trade war threatens to erode the competitiveness of US automakers in the global market. As other countries, particularly China, ramp up their electric vehicle production, the US risks falling behind in the race to dominate this crucial industry of the future.
Did Trump just hand Canada over to China? All right, buckle up, because the fallout from Trump's escalating trade war is snowballing, and the biggest winner might just be Beijing. First, let's talk tariffs. Trump raised tariffs on Chinese goods to a staggering 145%, while China retaliated with 125% tariffs on U.S. imports. Meanwhile, Trump kept his 25% tariffs on steel, aluminum, and cars, and even slapped a 10% baseline tariff on non-Chinese imports. Now Canada's not sitting quietly. They've hit back with a 25% tariff on U.S. vehicles and a surcharge on electricity exports, impacting over 1.5 million American homes and businesses. But it doesn't stop there. Canada's Premier Doug Ford is threatening even more drastic measures. Cutting electricity exports to the U.S. could spike energy prices in states like New York and Minnesota by up to 20%. And wait for it. Canada is considering ending their contract with Elon Musk's Starlink. If that happens, rural internet access across North America could take a massive hit. Ouch! Now here's where it gets brutal. Canadian travel to the U.S. has dropped by over 40%, gutting the tourism industry in states like Florida and California. And Canadian businesses? They're shifting imports to Europe and Japan. That's a huge blow to American brands, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Walmart, all seeing sales in Canada plunge by up to 12%. And while this trade war rages, China is swooping in. Canadian oil exports to China are up 25%, and Beijing is buying Canadian wheat, beef, and lumber like there's no tomorrow. If this keeps up, China could overtake the U.S. as Canada's top trading partner in just 5 years. Here's the kicker. This trade war isn't just hurting Canada. A University of Toronto study predicts the U.S. could lose up to 1% of its GDP, and markets? The S&P 500 is tumbling, while Canada's TSX is holding steady thanks to new trade with Asia. So let me ask you this. Was this a calculated move, or did Trump just accidentally hand Canada over to China? Let me know what you think in the comments.